Welcome back, everyone, to Better Bay Podcast. My name is Katrina, and I am here with Leslie.
Hello, everyone.
Anthony's back here.
Hello, how you doing?
And we have the pleasure of having a guest on today. We touched base last week's podcast. If you did not listen to last week's podcast, I definitely suggest you download that and listen to it. It was all about case management. We went over some of the struggles and, some of the hardships that we have navigating the system and in this society. So our guest today, his name is Matthew. Hi, Matthew.
How you doing? Thank you.
Good. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
So Matthew, he, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you recently, over the last few months, got out. You were incarcerated. You're in recovery. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself and, where you're at in your recovery, how you came out from incarcerated, because I'm looking at you and you're strong, you're healthy.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. So basically, the last year's been quite eventful. I was released from DOC October of 23. I was incarcerated for almost 13 years because of a drug addiction. And when I was released from the Department of Corrections, I was released custody to custody. Okay. So I was actually sentenced to treatment after my prison sentence. So I went from DOC to a treatment center for residential treatment. I completed the program. It was like a 60-day residential treatment, and then I went into halfway living. And I'm currently a resident at a halfway house right now. I've been working a 12-step program, and my life is completely turned around for the better, thank God. And I'm pretty much accepting the fact that I can't do this by myself. Mm-hmm. And I've surrendered to the addiction, and I've been doing basically what I've been told. I realized that my way was not working, and now I'm just doing the right thing. And I'm a true believer that when you do the right thing happens, and I'm just going with it.
Absolutely. I'm on board with you there. Yeah. I know those feelings. Yeah. So awesome. So coming out from being incarcerated, because that's
Sure.
How long were you in there?
12 years, 11 months, and 26 days.
It's a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
Long time. A big chunk of your life too.
Yeah.
So coming out from being incarcerated, going to treatment, what was some of the hardships and the struggles, trials, tribulations that you kind of endured?
Sure. So I think the biggest change for me was just getting acclimated to freedom. Mm-hmm. The structured environment where you're so used to being around people that have ulterior motives. You know what I'm saying? Nobody
Mm-hmm.
does something out of the kindness of their heart.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So when I transitioned from being incarcerated and being involved in a program where people really want what's best for me, mm-hmm. it was hard to accept that, and not feeling like I had to sleep with one eye open.
Right.
When people were trying to help me, I always thought that there was something behind it. You know what I'm saying? So mm-hmm. realizing that actually people do care and that people have my best interest at heart was probably the hardest thing for me to accept. Mm-hmm. And then once I realized, slowly but surely that that not everybody is a horrible person, I started to slowly grow relationships with people that were involved in the program. Where I'm at right now, I have to say it saved my life, and it's amazing. I don't want to leave.
Mm-hmm.
When I got there, I didn't want to be there. Now I'm like, you guys are going to have a hard time getting rid of me because of the network and just the support mm-hmm. that you have, because it's still fresh,
Yeah.
I've only been clean now. I've been clean almost 11 months.
Congratulations.
And thank you. I appreciate that. And, that support network that's offered in Halfway and in these 12-step programs, you can't find it anywhere else. I'll be honest, I didn't even know it existed, to be honest.
Yeah.
So discovering it was really a blessing in itself. And then just being able to realize that I don't have to do it by myself, and I have people that really want what's best for me. It's really been a blessing.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It is. You hear the testimonials when you're in treatment where mm-hmm. people say, living your life beyond the wildest dreams and all this stuff. And, in treatment, you feel like it's like a a financial materialistic type thing. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what you're used to. But then when you really experience it, you're like, the stuff that you're getting that's so genuine and just real, and you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just special. I don't really know. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, it's so special, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, you got it.
So when you went into treatment, and then you went into your halfway.
Correct.
And so, from my experience, if I went into treatment, then went into halfway, I don't have a job, I don't have money, I don't have an ID, I probably have the clothes on my back.
Sure.
How did you navigate that?
So honestly, like when it came to the resources and everything, the treatment center, they basically, they had they had like care packages, right? There was food boxes that were donated to the organization. And I just basically, I used whatever that was available, you know, and I just had I had a strong will to not go back. You know what I mean? So I was literally willing to do whatever I had to so that wouldn't happen. I knew that keeping busy and having a job and basically, you know, starting from scratch and building my way up, and you know, my goal was to be a constructive member of society. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, that meant having to take the bus, you know. I've never taken a bus before, you know what I mean? And I rode the bus for the first time at 40 years old, you know what I'm saying? And it was interesting because I didn't know that you had to pull that little thing on the lever to get off. And I was riding on the bus like the whole way, and I'm like, where am I supposed to? I went in a big circle, you know? So like simple things like that. And, you know, just it's just humbling, I guess you could say. But as far as like, I just prayed a lot. I got a sponsor, and you know, the fellowship organization and Broward Addiction Recovery Center, they helped me, and I'm forever in debt to them because they gave me hope. I didn't think, you know what I mean? I just didn't know that those resources were available until they showed them to me.
Right.
And then once they showed them to me, I just took it step by step, like they say, one day at a time. And, you know, now I've got a great job, and, you know, I just got my license. That was...
It's amazing.
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear about that.
Oh, you want to hear about the license?
Yeah, you said you had a struggle there, and we were
really quick. I gotta say something about fellowship and the people that, because I know, you know, a few people. I mean, Jason and all. They really are like family.
They're amazing.
It's like you mentioned before, it's just not the program on its own.
It's not.
It's the energy of the people that make things happen, and stigma free. They really support you, and they don't
really care
unconditionally. And this is what it's all about when it comes to recovery: is the support that you get from people within the recovery. Because let me tell you, we did with Katrina, came across other organizations that not everybody is the same. You have to be very cautious where you go to, because you need, especially in recovery, right? And I'm learning a lot from Katrina, from my experiences with, you know, fellowship and other organizations. You need to be very cautious of, you know, who you surround yourself with and where you go to seek for the help to really recover, right?
Yeah.
So, I am so happy for you.
Thank you so much, Leslie.
Please continue with, you know, the question that Katrina asked you.
Sure. So I want to touch base just a little bit on what you just said, just real quick, because in my experience, when it comes to recovery, you know, there's certain people that look at it as a business, and then there's certain people that look at it that really want to help.
Exactly.
And the organization that I'm with right now, these people really care. You know what I mean? And feeling that, and I'm not just a statistic, or I'm not just a bed that's, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not just filling up bed space. They really will do whatever they can to help you.
You're a human being.
Yeah, and I love that.
A lot of people loses like humanity.
Yeah.
And especially Katrina and I mean, I'm learning the recovery space. And I mean, you have no idea the compensation that we get is seeing somebody that is recover and they're living an amazing life. Like, I cannot be more happy for Jason and all the other people that were able to overcome the obstacles, because it's a daily battle. And especially around the holidays, around certain things that can happen and other outside factors. And you taught me this, Katrina, from a daily battle can become an hour, a second
Sure.
that you're battling with the addiction.
Sure.
And I've seen it firsthand, and breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that people in recovery don't really get the support that they deserve, and there's still a stigma. There's still people singling them out. I mean, and you know what? That can happen to anybody. If people knew your story from the beginning, as you mentioned before, you didn't choose to be an addict. You were born with it.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't understand that, right?
They really don't.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get to it in a bit. I mean, it's up to you if you want to share more about how you became an addict, because that lead into, being locked up for so many years.
Sure.
And honestly, it was an chemical balance that you were born with.
Mm-hmm.
But people don't know.
They don't, yeah.
Right?
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, knowing and understanding what it is like half the battle. You know what I mean? Because you only practice what you know. You know what I'm saying? And, having a mother who was extremely addicted to heroin, and I was born addicted to drugs. My mother was using when she was pregnant with me. So finding out the science behind it was it was helpful for me, because it helped lift the blame that I was blaming for myself. You know what I'm saying? And it's a disease,
And you were born with the odds against you already,
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, and at a Better Day Foundation, we talk about ACEs a lot.
Yep.
And that is part of those ACEs.
Yes. Yeah.
So going back to your ID story.
Okay, yes, the DMV.
Yeah, the DMV. we know how much of a struggle the DMV is, especially since COVID, because it goes back and forth with, do you need to make an appointment? Don't you need to make an appointment? Can I go stand here at 5 a.m? Can I not?
Sure.
And then, in your case, you have a fun story with people even cutting in line.
Oh my God. It was, all right. So I actually, in the last week, I've had to go to the DMV 3 times. So the first time, I was warned by Enrique, who is the director at Fellowship. I love him. He's great. And he was like, you better be there at 3:00 in the morning. Wow. That's what he told me. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, whatever. I'll get there at like 4 or 3:30. You know what I'm saying? He's like, no, make sure you're there at 3.
And what time they open?
They don't open until 8:00.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So I literally, now mind you, I don't have a card. I don't have a license. So I actually took my e-bike down to the DMV.
Okay.
And I got there at 3:34. Okay. At 3:34, I was number 46 in line. Okay. Now, mind you,
so where people were camping
there was
outside?
literally on chairs and blankets, and yes.
So chairs. So people already knows that the lines are extremely busy.
Yes. And I actually asked the person in the beginning of the line what time they got there, and they were there from the day before because they had run out of walk-in appointments. So they literally waited from 5:00 the previous afternoon until the following day, and they were the first person in line.
And this is in Broward County, correct?
Correct. This is in Broward County. Yep. This is right on Banks Road and
Coconut Creek.
And Coconut Creek. Yes, on Banks Road. Yeah.
Wow. And there's a school right next to it.
Oh yeah. So that actually, it was funny because the way the line was lined up was actually blocking the school. So the security guard from the school had to basically redirect the line to flow the opposite direction. Oh my gosh. During the transition of people moving from in front of the school to the other side of the parking lot, obviously people used that situation to manipulate and cut the line.
Wow.
So so that's how the people that, that were in line been waiting were cut by other people because the crowd moved. And so when I counted as 46, after that move of the line because of the school, I was now like 57 or something crazy. So, you know what I mean? People were cutting the line. It was pretty bad.
And do they only let, I don't know how it works in Broward because I'm in Palm Beach County, but do they only let a certain amount of people come in as a walk-in for the day?
Sure. So when they open the doors at like 7:30 before they start taking the walk-ins, a staff member at the DMV hands out just regular square paper tickets 1 through 50. Right? Now those 1 through 50 tickets, you're pretty much guaranteed to be seen by the DMV. Right? They don't do anything after 50, right? Now, mind you, I got there at 3:30 and I was like 46. Okay. So by the time,
And now
so
you're What number?
Yeah. So by the time we switched and people cutting, by the time they did it, I was past 50.
Wow.
Yeah. So I ended up, being able to be seen, but they just changed the regulations. So in order for proof of residency, you used to just be able to bring like a utility bill, a cell phone bill with your name and with your address on it, right?
Right.
Well, as of October of this year, they changed that. So you're no longer able to use a bill. You actually have to bring a bank statement, and it has to be less than 30 days old, okay? A vehicle registration or some type of other legal document, okay? A utility bill, or it was a utility bill, bank statement, or car registration, okay? Now, mind you, I'm in halfway living, so I don't have utilities in my name. You know what I mean? So I don't even have the actual bills that they were requesting to prove my residency. So I was fortunate enough to get a letter of residency, made by the director here at Fellowship, and that proved that I was a resident.
Mm-hmm. And sober livings do that as well.
Yes, correct. Yep.
Yeah, I do that for clients. Did you have any other? So did you let me back up. So when you got in, and did you have that information there with you, or did you have to leave and come back and do it again?
So that's exactly what happened. So when I found out that they had changed the rules, because online it said what I had would suffice. When I got there, it was a different story. And so when I got there, he was like, well, he was able to reinstate my driving privileges because I paid the fee, which was $248 to reinstate my license. Okay, so I paid that, and legally I was able to drive. I physically did not have an actual Florida state driver's license ID because I could not prove my residency. So he told me what I needed moving forward and said, you're going to have to come back. So obviously I want my ID. I'm trying to get this taken care of. So that was on a Friday. I went to a DMV on a Saturday. I went to a different location because this was the only location that was open on Saturdays. And I got there at like 4:30 in the morning, and the line wasn't as bad as it was the previous day. So when I get there at 4:30, I'm waiting in line, and it's about 7:30, and somebody says the DMV's closed today in recognition of the Thanksgiving Day holiday. Wow. So there was a whole bunch of us. We were all waiting for no reason, and we ended up, basically going home and waited there for nothing. So I told myself, I said, I'm going to get this taken care of on Monday. So I actually ended up linking up with a girl that was waiting with me on Saturday who was in the same type of situation. So I was like, do you want to camp out and hang out on, early Monday morning? She's like, yes, let's do it. So thankfully she actually got there at 1:45. I didn't get there until 2:30, and she was 30 something people in at 1:45
in the morning.
In the morning, yes. And so when she got there, she had brought an extra chair and saved a spot for me. So I was able to sit with her, you know what I'm saying, and not be all the way far back.
That's sweet.
Yeah. So we sat there and we just tried to make the best of it, and it was really difficult because we were sitting there watching people cut line. They literally would walk up, and they would just basically look over their shoulder and just get in the line like they were supposed to. Wow. And it's got to the point to where I knew for me that I just had to ignore it because I'm not trying to go back where I just came from. You know what I'm saying? So I tried my best to brush it off and just really meditate and pray on it and just know that I was there. If I do the right thing, the right thing's going to happen. And ultimately at around 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, my number was finally called. Had to pay another $48, and now I have my license.
Wow.
Yeah.
The letter of residency that you had.
Sure.
Did the DMV give you half off?
The DMV, when I gave them the letter of residency, originally they were going to actually discount the license.
Right.
But because it was 32 days old, it was not valid. It had to be 30 days or less.
Right.
So it was 32 days old, so it was not valid. So I ended up having to pay the full price because the expiration, because they only accept it less than 30 days, and it was dated 32 days late.
Wow. So, and you didn't want to get back online
No,
anyways.
there was no way. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to, I will pay $48 three times over so I don't have to wait in that line again.
Wow. So to our listeners, I want you to definitely recap what just happened, because the DMV obviously is extremely difficult to navigate as it is. Make sure that you have all of your forms that you need. Look online, look at the extra rules that came into place in October.
Yeah. So even online, like for the listeners, like, so online, it's going to say you just need a utility bill or, for proof of address.
So it's not up to date.
It's not up to date. No. So what they require is either a vehicle registration, a bank statement. Okay. Now there was a lot of people that were there that were trying to show bank statements on their phone and they would not accept it. It needs to be a hard copy of your bank statement from your bank, less than 30 days old, in addition to your birth certificate, social security card, and another proof of residency, like a utility bill or something like that.
Wow.
So we have all that,
Yeah.
and then the letter of residency. Make sure you have that under 30 days.
Correct. Yep. The letter of residency from your sober living establishment or from your halfway, basically stating that you are technically homeless. That's what's going to waive the fee for the actual driver's license or the identification.
Within 30 days.
Correct, and it has to be 30 days, not less than 30 days old. Correct. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also just want to touch on, because since COVID, definitely check online. To our listeners, make sure you check online, because again, not all are taking walk-ins and not all are taking appointments.
Yeah, that's correct. So I actually was trying to book an appointment because that obviously made more sense. But the earliest appointment that they had last week wasn't until December 17th, I think. So the appointments were booked almost 3 weeks in advance.
Yeah, it's approximately a month still.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy, Leslie?
Yeah.
Okay. For people that don't have so many Roblox, we can renew the license online, right?
So yes, you can renew it online, and I could be a little
You can,
wrong.
as long as you don't have a change of address. As long as the address is the same, you can renew it online. Yes, that's correct.
And it has to be in Florida.
Correct.
And it can only be one time for so many periods. I don't know if it's a one time every.
Honestly, I'm not sure. I know the girl that I was with, that I ended up, hanging out with, she actually, she was just doing a renewal, because it expired. She had the same address. And the only thing that she had to do was she did have to show a bank statement.
Now, speaking of bank statements and sober living,
Sure.
Not everyone has a bank.
That's correct. Yeah.
Not everyone has that.
And honestly, I don't know what their options are. I'll be totally honest. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay. So
I hope somebody from DMV is listening.
this is you.
Hopeful thinking. I don't
Yeah.
know. Or maybe we can write a really nice petition letter and drop it at the EMB.
Yeah. You would hope and you would think that maybe their letter of residency is already expressing a vulnerable state for somebody that's trying to do the right thing. But I mean, the compassion just not there.
Yeah.
It's really not.
And I think that is the problem when people get is not sensitive enough. They get like so robotic, and they lose the compassion.
Yeah, robotic, lack of compassion, or we're right back to the stigma.
That's it. Yeah. And
that's true.
They look at your letter of residency from a sober living, and geez, here we go.
Yeah.
I've experienced it firsthand.
And I understand that. And that, honestly, that stigma is what gives me that motivation and that drive just to try to defeat it,
Oh, that's awesome. So that was one tremendous hurdle that you got over. I'm so happy for you.
I know, it feels so good now that I actually have my license. And then
Hang on to it, take a photo of it.
I know it. It does feel good. It's been a long time.
So you did say that you had a little scooter, but before that, I know you said you took the bus. Not everyone knows how to navigate the bus system. Not everyone knows that you can use your maps on your phone.
Sure.
Not everyone knows that thing that you have to pull down to get off the bus.
Yes, that me included. So with the bus situation, the treatment center that I was at, they actually had an application for me. They gave me the application. I filled it out and I sent it in to Broward Transit. Now what they did was they returned with it's like a yellow, like 5x10, 8x10, like postcard. And on the postcard, I filled it out. It was already pre-stamped to be sent back to them. And when I did that, what they did was they sent me one of those QR codes that you scan with like your phone. And I did have a government issued phone that was given to me through Florida Access. And I scanned that QR code and that put a bus pass on my phone for 1 year.
So I do want to touch base on what you just said, reiterate for our listeners.
Sure.
you had a Florida Access.
I had a Florida Access food stamp card.
Yep.
Okay.
And you also got a free phone.
And I did get a free phone, yes.
That works.
That worked. It's a smartphone.
It's a smartphone.
Yeah,
it
it's
does
great.
Work.
Yeah, it works great. Takes pictures. You can go on the internet. They give you free service for an entire year, and they also give you a tablet as well. Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's a lot of resources.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
why I wanted
great.
to touch base
yeah,
on that.
for sure. It's not like the old school like Obama phones that people used
Like
to
the
have.
flip
Yeah, no,
phones?
none of
No,
that.
it's an actual
it's an
phone.
actual touchscreen phone. It's just it's an Android device, and it works great.
Yeah.
It serves the purpose.
It sure does.
Mainly to
Yeah.
communicate, keep you communicating.
Absolutely.
So where did you get that form to fill out for the listeners?
For the bus?
Yeah.
Okay, the form that I received it from Broward Addiction Recovery Center. My case manager there, she had it in a folder, and she just gave me the form. I filled out the form, sent it in, and then I received a yellow index card from Broward Transit, and I just had to basically fill it out. And then when I did that, they sent me a QR code that you scan, like when you with your phone. And when I scanned that QR code, I downloaded the app, the Broward Transit app, and all I had to do was scan my phone on the bus, and I got a bus ride.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Another hurdle.
Yeah.
But with that, you had support.
I sure did, yes. Yep.
You had
I did.
support.
Yep.
So I did want to I have Leslie here sitting next to me. So I did want to touch base on this beautiful story because of A Better Day Foundation and ACEs. I know that we briefly talked about it before we got on air here, that, Matthew has overcome all these tremendous things and hurdles, and he's doing amazing now. And you guys heard it from the beginning that his ACEs started at the beginning.
Exactly. Started at your mom's, when you were on your mom's belly, put it this way, right? And it hurts my heart because you encounter so many obstacles in addiction, and it's not your fault, So tell us a little bit about your upbringing, so people, that sometimes they're too quick to judge the book by its cover. They don't know.
Sure.
I mean, addiction can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't discriminate anybody.
It has no biases at all.
Exactly. So sometimes we all are too quick to judge people, and we have to be more kind and humanitarian. So if you would like to share a little bit about your upbringing, and how it came about to, how you ended up, and then what, and that's what made you.
Yeah.
That's what made you Matthew.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Leslie. I really do. So I was actually born and raised in upstate New York, in Rochester. And from a young age, there was substance abuse in my family. I didn't really know about it, honestly, until I got older and looked back at it. But my mother struggled with addiction, her entire life. And my father was basically oblivious to it because she was very good at hiding it from him. And it got to a point to where there was things missing and things stolen, and that my mother was doing to basically support her drug addiction. And when my father found out that she was active in her addiction, he ended up, basically kicking her out of the house. And my father tried his best to raise me and my three brothers by himself. My father's family owns a car company up in New York, and, running a family business and raising us, four boys was really difficult for my dad. So if we weren't in the care of a state-issued child care provider, we were at my father's, job with him, and basically we just learned how to be kind of like independent on our own. And we basically raised ourselves. I know my dad tried his best, so you know what I mean. And my father's one of 17 children. So my grandmother, my grandmother on my dad's side had 11 boys and like 6 girls. So, being able, you only practice what you know. So, my dad, he did his best, and I love my father. So we have a great relationship now. But, growing up and in high school, I was having identity issues, and I kind of always knew that I was gay, but I just had a real issue in admitting it because this was like the 90s. It's not like how it is now, where it's like it's much more accepted now than it was when I was, in high school and middle school. So having that identity crisis and those issues. I was battling, those demons already, and I turned to substance abuse to basically escape who I really was, I guess. And it started off as just like a weekend, what we call like a weekend warrior, where I would like party on the weekends and, do the school thing Monday through Friday. And then it just progressively got worse as I got older. And it really got bad when my little brother passed away. My little brother passed away while he was incarcerated, and he struggled with addiction really bad too. My mom was using when she was pregnant with us, so me and my brothers, everyone in my family struggled with addiction. So my brother was incarcerated, and he ended up passing away from congestive heart failure from his, the drug use was so bad that his heart failed, and he was only 22. So when my brother passed away, I basically, I pretty much went downhill from there, and I had a really, really good job. I went to school to be a veterinarian, and I was doing my internship here in South Florida. That's actually what brought me to Florida, and a lot of people don't realize that the controlled substances that people abuse in human medicine are the exact same in veterinary medicine, and I manipulated and exploited that privilege and started using. And it got to a point to where people were noticing I was getting high at work, and I ended up just doing things that I shouldn't have been doing to basically
sustain your addiction.
To sustain, yes, exactly. So I ended up getting convicted for burglary, grand theft, and resisting arrest. And I also had possession of methamphetamine and possession of other drugs. And my judge, she sentenced me. She threw the book at me pretty much, and I ended up getting like a 17-year sentence, and I ended up doing almost 13 on 17 years. And so the entire time when I was in prison, I was using the entire time. I mean, a lot of people always say, how'd you get drugs in prison? And I'm like, you have no idea. It's so much easier to get drugs in prison than it is on the street. Instead of having to go around the corner to the dope house, the only thing you have to do in prison is knock on the cell door and tell them what you want. And before you know it, it's being thrown under your door. As long as you're able to pay for it, which I had an enabling family who all I had to do is make a phone call. And if I needed money for quote, quote, food, they would send it. And obviously that's what I was using it for, drugs. And that's how I sustained my addiction the entire, 13 years I was in prison. I was high every day, So when I got out of prison, I was released custody to custody. Part of my sentence was to complete Broward Addiction Recovery Center residential treatment. So as soon as I got off the prison bus, I was supposed to report to that treatment. Guess what? I didn't. So I ended up getting high, and I ended up just basically, I was on a mission to self-destruct because I got literally dropped off out of a Greyhound bus, and I just had nowhere to go. And I was like, I just got released from prison. I wasn't going to go put myself voluntarily into another institution after just getting out. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm going to have my fun. And it almost killed me, and I'm glad that I did end up going because it changed my life. And I went to the detox center for 14 days, and then I did residential treatment for like 62 days. And that's where I found out all the resources. That's where I found out I don't have to do this alone. That's where I found out where there's people like me. Mm-hmm. There's people that have done the same thing that, and I think the biggest thing for me was there's one word that's really powerful when it comes to this 12-step program, and it's the word surrender. And when my clinician told me that I'm not surrendering when I was in treatment, I took it offensively because I thought that it was like giving up, right? And I'm like, I'm not going to surrender. I don't give up. I'm a fighter. I'm going to keep going. But he said, you're not surrendering as a person. You're surrendering to your addiction so you don't have to do it by yourself. And when I realized that, it was almost like that moment of clarity that they talk about, the moment of clarity, like a light bulb just went ding. And I'm like, oh, wow, I don't have to do this by myself. And once I realized that, and I was like, okay, let me, it's like what do they always say? You lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? That's exactly what they do. They give you the tools for you to succeed. You have to use them for it to work. Right. And I really believe that for anybody that's in this position, anybody that's listening right now, if you are struggling and you want to if you want to change your life, because you don't have to live the way that you're living. That's a choice. And if you want to choose to better yourself, the resources are out there. Okay. A closed mouth will not get fed. So you have to, you know what I mean? And realizing that for me it was great, you know, and I'm, you know, every single day I'm doing something better, you know, and all I have to do is I just don't have to pick up, and I don't, because I know the consequences, and I know, you know, I don't want to live like that anymore.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you found a family that is supported.
Yes, I do. And I will say a shout out to my fellowship brothers and the fellowship sisters. That is one organization where they really do care, you know, and they really want what's best. And if it wasn't for them, I don't know where I'd be today.
Let me tell you, I remember not long ago, I had an incident with somebody that I needed help with. The first one that I reached out my phone, and I think it was late at night on a Sunday. I called Rick.
Rick is amazing.
He answered the phone,
he's
and
so awesome.
he directed me, call this, and I did, and the person got the help that they needed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And not long ago, I called another person. I called Jason and Luigi, and they contacted me with Pete. And Pete was, I mean, let me tell you, if you're talking about, sometimes you think about scholarships, right? How to get scholarships and what we do. And then Katrina and I mean, with this podcast, we don't get paid. We do it because we want to make a difference in the world. We have a different way to get blessed by God. She has her business, I have my own business, right? But life is so fragile. You know, you can be here today, you can be gone tomorrow. You never know. What are you leaving behind? These people, these individuals, I call Pete, I call Rick, I know so many people, Jerome, you mentioned
Sure.
Enrique,
Yeah.
Erickson, I mean, the ones that I'm naming from fellowship, amazing. When I learned that there's so many amazing people in the recovery field, is that during the pandemic.
Sure.
Yeah.
I got to meet the most amazing humans at fellowship. I met Jason, I met all the people that I just mentioned, and I recommend that to anybody that I know.
Absolutely. Shout out to Mason too. I love you, buddy.
I don't know who that is, but
Mason's my house manager.
oh, okay. This new probably I don't know
Yeah.
him, but amazing people.
Yeah.
So,
And like, I will say this, like Thanksgiving, this was the first Thanksgiving that I've had, like not in an institution in almost like 15 years. Right?
how did that feel?
It was amazing. Like I had good turkey. Everybody, the community and the unity, and just, it's like, so and when I was incarcerated, you stayed away from the gangs and the affiliations because it was really, really dangerous, and really, you know, that's just something you did not involve yourself in, right? Now, like, because of that experience, now when I look at what we have in this 12-step program, I feel like we're like the best gang ever because it's nothing but love. And we all, you know, they say in the literature, the effect of one addict helping another addict is without parallel, right? So it's like you have that, you know, and it's so strong there that it's just like there's nothing that can explain it. Words will never do it justice. They just won't. And I've never seen anything else like it. It's definitely something that miracles do happen, and there's a method to their madness for sure.
And I'm sure that we have a lot of listeners that can relate to you. And you know, there's hope. Look
There
at
really
you,
is.
all the things that you overcome.
Yeah.
And look where you are. You have an amazing job. You have such a bright future ahead.
Thank you so much, Leslie. I really am trying. And for all the listeners out there, you can do it. I mean, I know I sound like cliche, and I don't want to sound cliche, but it's the truth. If you want it, it'll happen. And I really believe that if you do the right thing will always happen, you know, and there are resources out there. There are people that really want what's best for you, and they want to help you because, you know, there's people that I've been where you're at. And if there's anything that I can do, I'm willing to help. You know what I mean? There's hotlines, there's online access for NA and AA, and, you know, BARC, Broward Addiction Recovery Center. They have free and detox treatment and residential treatment. And if it wasn't for them and for fellowship, I would not be where I am today. Those people helped me get back on my feet.
Amazing. You sure don't want to be part of For a Better Day too?
I think I do.
Oh, that's amazing.
I think I do. Sure. Any way that I can give back, because they say you only can keep what you have by giving it away. And I know that paying it forward is going to do the exact thing that was done for me to somebody else.
I love that.
That's beautiful. So before we go, Matthew, that was a beautiful, beautiful thought. Do you have any final words for our listeners?
My final words for the listeners, honestly, would be, you really don't have to live that way anymore. There are options. You're not by yourself. I mean, I literally came from living in an 8x13 cell and sleeping on concrete for months at a time in my boxers with no food, no nothing, to pushing my property around in a shopping cart and dumpster diving behind 7-Eleven because I knew they were throwing sandwiches away. And I went from that to working for a $1 trillion company and, doing things that I didn't think would be possible. I have my driver's license. I have a beautiful new truck. I've got great friends. You know what I'm saying? I have things that somebody's supposed to have at my age, and I'm getting better as the days progress. So if you want it, you can get it. There's options out there. People do want to help.
You're not alone.
Yeah, you're definitely not alone. You are not alone at all.
Any last thoughts for you, Leslie?
I'm just
astonished,
so
amazed.
happy that you made it here tonight.
Oh, thank you, Leslie, so much.
Your amazing journey. And
it's a lot.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't go too. I hope I didn't give too much. I hope the listeners can relate a little bit and just know that. I mean, it's like I said before. If I can do it, anybody can.
The most important thing that
It
we
really-
can all learn is kindness and lend a hand.
Yeah.
No matter.
Yes,
what.
it's just you're not alone, and I've been there. People have been there, and they want to help. They want what's better for you. I promise.
Absolutely. So if this conversation resonated with you, think about how you can strengthen your own connections, your own people in your life. Think about the support system that you have and how you're overcoming your own challenges. Share this episode with someone. Thank you, everyone. And until next time.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.